Hi and welcome to the SmartDispense Energy Well Spent debate series. I'm Emma Newbury. I am the on-trade strategy manager for Heineken UK and SmartDispense. I'm joined by Peter Weeden, who is head chef at the Duke of Cambridge, which is currently a finalist in the Best Sustainable Pub category at the Great British Pub Awards, and by Alastair Tyson, who's project manager for the not-for-profit Zero Carbon Forum. Peter, would you mind just giving us a brief introduction to yourself and your business?
So as you said, I'm chef at the Duke of Cambridge, but also I've taken on a role as sustainability manager for the Culpeper Family Hospitality Group, bringing together the 4 pubs we have to think about ways that we can really be a more positive force for good in the hospitality industry.
I'm Alastair Tyson. I'm formerly a hospitality worker, so I've worked in the hospitality for 25 years and now work on the other side, helping people with their sustainability goals on the journey to net zero and reducing their footprint, but hopefully saving money across the way.
And I think we can all say that the subject of energy efficiency, particularly with back-of-house operations for hospitality, has never been a more important subject. How can operators start to identify where those big savings are and what decisions they should be making first?
You can't save what you haven't measured. So the start is, for me, do a high-level carbon footprint. Find out where your major emission areas are within your fuel, so your scope 1 and 2 emissions, and then start to look at what you can do within your organisation, because it's personal to you. Look at how you can make an impact, make a difference. So for us, it's about looking at your startup. So when you're in the kitchen, what equipment you start up, when is service time, how long does it take for a coffee machine to start? So it's generally about 15 minutes for a cappuccino machine. Historically, they were left on overnight because we were told by manufacturers, don't turn them off because they won't work in the morning. But that alone can save you hundreds of pounds over the course of the year.
The thing that you're doing explicitly is making people stop. And we know that we want to reduce our emissions. We know that we want to have a smaller impact on the environment. But taking that time to stop, it's really hard to prioritise it because everything else is so important. Service twice a day or 3 times a day for a hotel. All these things are, they're weighing heavily on operators' minds. So I think we need to, across the board, from a commis chef or a pot wash, all the way through to owners and directors, find mechanisms to help us all to just stop for a minute and have a chance to think and to breathe and to start making positive choices about what we do. How do we want to proceed, and making a positive choice to do something rather than just assuming or getting caught up in things.
You're absolutely right in the sense of everybody's so busy and there's so much to do. So obviously you mentioned about measurement, but where do you start?
It's getting the engagement, getting people to see what difference they can make. And it is literally, from my point of view, shutting down a venue as efficiently as possible has a massive impact. And we saw that over the summer with the extreme temperatures we faced in this country. Yeah. The kit, and we've monitored it, was working sort of 12% harder just to keep the norm. And if we carry on going the way we're going, that'll become harder too, especially back of house. The kitchen is key. If it's not required, don't have it on.
You've got a great opportunity if you can build a culture that's positive and all the staff are engaged. But you've got to work on that, and you have to invest time and money and effort in getting the culture right so that everybody's on board, everyone can see what the vision is of the business.
We spoke at the Energy Well Spent Summit that it takes a village, and you've done a phenomenal amount of work with engaging your staff. How do you go about keeping them motivated, keeping it front of mind, and just making sure that the things you've put in place continue, but that also you're always thinking about, well, how can we do this even better?
A big part of it is not necessarily thinking that you have to motivate them, but actually they can motivate you as well. Everybody has a voice within this. Bringing people on board and giving them really clear instruction about how you have a set of values, and then giving them some freedom to inform the decisions that the business makes, and and to use the flexibility. In kitchens you have a lot of flexibility with seasonality, the change of vegetables and whatever the ingredients might be through the year. So things change, but using your staff as part of that change and using their ideas as part of that change, if you include them all the way, engage with them all the way, and then you're making decisions together and everybody feels like while we're doing this together as a team.
So you mentioned about how you efficiently kind of shut your business down at the end of sessions. And obviously staff are hugely important as part of that. I think you've mentioned before that from a business turning their ovens off at night, they'd saved something like £700,000.
Yeah.
So how do you start to identify that? And
so that was quite a large group of about 79 restaurants, and we started monitoring their energy use, so their electricity use overnight, when really it should be about 5 kilowatt hours per half hour. And we found some rather startling sort of numbers. If they leave kitchen extraction, if it's not on a timer, if it's manually turned off and it's left on over the course of the week, that can cost you up to £300 because it's a big piece of kit. It's on all the time. If it's not variable speed, there are things within the kitchen that can be turned off. And if you're trading traditionally, so you have a lunch service and you have your dinner service, you'd expect to see a peak at sort of between 12 and 2, and then things should die down a little bit at sort of 2:33, and then start to pick up again at 5. And what we actually find these days is that staff are currently coming in, their startup is actually pretty good. So they're starting the equipment about 10:30, 11 o'clock, so it's ready for service at 12. But then actually it's 2:30 when it should be, there aren't that many customers about. It should be turned down. So if there's no business, salamander grills are a classic that are just, once they're on, they're on. And when they're left on, they just burn gas like there's no tomorrow, or electricity. And it's a case of just turning those things down. So if you're trading slow, just turn it low. I'm not saying you have to turn it off, just turn it down. And those little savings all add up. And we're talking sort of 5, 10, 15 pounds a day in some cases. But in others, we're talking serious amounts of money. There's restaurants I know of in London that have left their extraction on. I don't even think they've turned it off all year. And it's just, until it's pointed out to them, that's when the cultural change starts at the sort of the head chef level. You know, energy has never been more expensive. Those small changes not only have a great impact on the bottom line, but also they start saving carbon. So if you save carbon, hopefully you save costs along the way. And that's where we like to focus our energy on, is the efficient shutdown and giving people the tools, but also demonstrating the effect of various things. So if we take a cellar, so we move out the kitchen, we go into a cellar. If the cellar temperature is too cold by 1 degree, that could be £1,300 a year. That's what could be saved just by raising the temperature. It doesn't spoil the beer, it just keeps it at the right temperature. Removing pieces of kit that shouldn't be in a cellar. So in every pub, there's probably one piece of kit in a cellar: a washing machine, a tumble dryer, because it doesn't matter if it leaks. Well, actually, it makes all the other kits in the cellar work twice as hard.
Or the ice machine in the cellar.
Or the ice machine. There's another great one. Or put the ice machine in the kitchen. That's another one that I love, is the fact that they put the ice machine in a hot kitchen, and you wonder why it struggles to produce ice. And it's find the right place for the pieces of kit, move them, get them efficiently run. But it's the monthly maintenance. And if you get on top of it early and stay on top of it, and that's where the sort of team ethos of the ice machine needs cleaning, yes, but the back of the coils, the filters, all those bits allow pieces of kit to work effectively. And it can be sort of 10% in terms of energy use just by doing those little things. And some of it we have to do.
There must be a list, though, that someone has. I mean, we have.
I've got a list.
We've got planned preventive maintenance lists, that we go through to break it down for people who maybe feel like it's such a big task to try and break it down. Sometimes I think people just hide from it and they say, well, I won't.
It goes in the too hard pile, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if there aren't lists, there should be, definitely. Or maybe we should make a list.
We have a list, but every list needs to be tailored to each place. But I know what you're saying.
I think just to start it, because when there's that overwhelming sense of this is too big, I can't do it, at least if there was a starting point, people can think, oh, well, actually, if I break it down into 12, maybe I could do that. Or if I break it into 52 in the weeks, well, that's only one thing a week that I need to do. It starts to be a little bit more achievable. In the same way that we were talking about the cellar temperature or the ovens being on, trying to engineer, and this is from head chef level definitely and sous chef level, do we really have to have the oven on at 200 degrees or 210 degrees? Well, we know that the last percentage is the hardest and most energy inefficient percentage. So getting those last 10 degrees, like when you're driving a car, it's just so much harder work for the piece of kit. So if you can drop it to 190 or 185, what do you really need your service temperature to be? When you need it hot, that's fine. Have it hot to deliver whatever it is. But, could you just drop it for 5 degrees, especially on a quiet night? Do you really have the same, demands on the bit of kit? Do you need to be having it extra hot just to get over the opening the door? Where are the little, the energy saving bits?
I would say that you all know how your business works and how it trades. So as an external person coming in, you can say you should do this, but actually you know your business and how you trade better than anybody else. And that's where generally the barriers come up. You tell somebody something, they go, well, that doesn't work for me because I do this. It's fine, it's completely fine to do whatever you do. It's just a case of, as you said at the start, just stop. Have a think, do I really need both banks of fries working on a Monday night? Can I get away with 2? But I do need, dietary requirements, so do I need all 4 or can I get away with 2? Yes, no. And it's just literally
But maybe then it's, okay, do we look at the sales reports? If I look at my sales report, I know on a Monday night for the last 3 weeks I've sold 120 portions of chips. How many fries do I need for that? Think about it, do the maths, and for each site individually.
I know of a national brand, people I won't name, but they used to have hash browns that they deep fried for their breakfast until somebody did some analysis on their sales and they found that across the entire country, across all 56 sites, they sold 16 hash browns. But in every site, there's 56 fryers going every day, and they sold 16 side portions. And so what do? They actually just change the piece of kit they use to cook. They still have hash browns, they just cook it in the oven, and it takes them a bit longer.
And I guess you've got this piece around looking at where you can make your current operations more efficient. If we were to then take it sort of a bit longer term and looking at investments, are there anything that sort of would be a great win for the majority of different types of hospitality businesses, or any areas that we should definitely be looking at?
So there's a big switch, obviously, or there was until the energy crisis hit, but there's a sizable switch to induction cooking, moving away from gas, and if you like the traditional solid top. When I used to work in the kitchen, the big burner that was just on, it was hot, it's uncomfortable. Moving away from that, there's now induction solid tops where it's variable heat in various places. So the technology is catching up with demand and chef requirements. The main thing, I think, especially as we go into colder, darker times, is to make sure everything's set at the right temperature so that it can work efficiently. And then just check that seals, oven seals are another one. If that's gone or perished, it has to work harder. It's using more energy. And it's those little bits that people who work within these organisations and on their own sites, they know their kit better than anybody else.
I think part of that is, if you're putting a bit of kit in today, thinking, what am I going to be doing in 10 years' time with this bit of kit? Am I going to be doing the food that 10 years ago is informing my menu choices today? Or we're going to be in a different place. So what kind of flexibility do I want with the kit? What efficiency am I expecting from the kit? In 10 years, will it have paid itself off? And, all happy days. Thinking about the staff you're going to need to work on the kit. Is it a bit of kit that needs highly skilled staff or something that's more flexible, or, really trying to factor in all those things. And it's complicated to make those decisions because kit can be really expensive, but really trying to plan it meticulously, I think, is the key to.
And I assume manufacturers must be looking at that much more closely now. I mean, certainly from a SmartDispense perspective, we create SmartDispense to give people great quality beer. But actually now we're looking at how can we make people's cellars and their draft dispense more efficient? How can we reduce their energy usage in the cellar? And that's where our technology is starting to evolve. And we're a brewer fundamentally, so I'd like to think that there are specialist suppliers who would be really looking into this now?
I think there are a number of conversations that we're having at the same time. One is what do you do on the day-to-day, engaging your team, making the changes that you can make, and those changes just have to happen. You have to get on with those. And then the things which are longer-term planning, finding professionals who can advise you with really good, reliable information is important. And, make small but important incremental changes in the way you do business.
And are there any changes that either of you have either seen or made yourselves that you've thought actually that has a much bigger impact than I was expecting, or conversely that you've explored and gone, oh no, I thought that was going to be better than it actually is, so I'll divert my energy somewhere else?
Yeah, it's hard. I think easiest and best and biggest wins have been the things like engaging the team, getting to stop and think about planning all of their cooking across the day from various sections together, saying, right, what bits of kit do we need on? And then I think the things that are a struggle are trying to remind people to turn off lights in rooms. That it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of people chasing each other around and telling people off, and it's much better in those circumstances to get it into your PPM list and say, shall we put a timer or a piece of equipment that will do that for us but avoids the nagging and it's all about positive engagement and finding things that make a real difference and enhance the quality of your workplace and what you're delivering.
There's a balance, isn't there, between we all want things done a certain way, whether it's to save energy or for consistency of product or dispense of product. We all want things done a certain way, and it's that balance of, do I spend 30, 40, 50 quid on a timer for a light switch that removes that barrier and just lets them focus on the important things? There's so much technology that you can put into things right now, and sometimes there's too much technology, and it's a case of which bits of kit, actually some of the cheapest are the best, because they do remove the arguments. People work long hours in hot conditions, and they just want to feel that they're making a difference and that what they're doing is worthwhile. The key things are to measure it as best you can, whether that's your energy bill month to month or you go into more depth, but just measure what you've got and what impact things are doing. So if you do make a change, that you're able to demonstrate to your team that it's made a change.
We've covered an awful lot of ground today. Thank you both very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. It's been really, really insightful. Thank you.